Hello, everyone. We haven't had a false start at the beginning here for very long, but maybe we just did today, or maybe we're coming in with the cold open. Anyway, what's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a Thursday episode. As you know, we're experimenting with all these episodes, so we're up to 120 live streams. Tuesday, we had a really exciting conversations about front ends as a service, and we announced the table of contents attribute, and along with that came the attributes API. And so we're continuing the conversation today about that attributes API, kind of just jump all over the, what does it mean? How can people use this? We'll talk a little bit about, the front end as a service, and we'll recap that stuff a little bit and how this fits into the future of Webflow, et cetera. But we're just going to go through the conversation here. So leave your thoughts in the comments. These conversations are always very fluid as we go. So what are you thinking, Joe, as we get back into this here?
I'm thinking also table of contents. We came in here thinking, let's talk API, and we will talk API. But also, if you want to talk table of contents, we're ready to talk about that too. If you have a use case you want to show and share, we can look at that and see if the table of contents is a good use for that. So yeah, this is another open episode and really focusing on that powerful session just 2 days ago.
Yep.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Record-breaking attendance Tuesday. I don't know that we'll get that kind of turnout again today, but we're going to have a lot of fun with the folks who are here with us. So what's up? Tony Seats is hanging out in the background. We're going to suck you into the chat. I know we got to get Tony into this. He's thinking he's just going to listen in the background and work. But now we're going to pull him into the show. So what's up? Jane is here saying, hi, guys. Watching these streams is becoming a habit. Yes. Tell your friends. Come on. This is what we do. Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Eastern. You come and hang out with the Finsweet crew, and we get wild talking about Webflow. David is saying, hello from Israel. Armando's here. Maria, hello, hello. Rahul is in the house. Aida, hello. John Matias, hello. Everyone, hit that like button now so you won't forget. That's right. There's 29 with 20 likes, so we're almost concurrent. Let's keep that count going up the rest of the show. We appreciate that, and so does YouTube. Nimesh, hello. Frank, what's up? Warda, Brianna, hello. Give Brianna some love here. Welcome to the world of Webflow. I saw your tweet earlier. I know you were at the show and tell, and I've seen you around a little bit, but let's all make sure we're welcoming Brianna into the community. Hello, Dimitri, Jesse here. Alexandro, hello. Fazlu. Let's see. Attributes API means that Finsweet is doing everything to stay the most renowned Webflow agency and keep Webflow on top of the game. Yeah, nice. We're trying to push the limits there. Any thoughts on that specifically, Joe?
Well, that is exactly what we want to do, Frank. We want to really create the best tools, the best experiences, so that we can all grow in Webflow together. So yeah, thank you for saying that. That's what we're trying to do.
Nice. John Saxon saying, don't know nothing about APIs, but pumped to hear more about it. Yeah, we don't know. I don't know a lot either, to be honest. I'm just learning about APIs, and I think that's what no code is doing right now. It's introducing a lot of people who have maybe heard of these terms or have seen them cross paths in some technical way before and kind of known, hey, I know that that's an application programming interface, but what do I do with it? What does that mean for me? How do I leverage that in my toolkits? And so I think that's the fun of this no code thing, is that we're all kind of being exposed to a little bit more of the technical complexity of what comes with code. And I think that's what keeps it exciting, is that we're always learning, we're always testing the boundaries of our skill set, and that's a lot of fun. So yeah. Dimitri saying, I purchased F1 Pro on the day of the announcement as a token of my respect for the huge work you're doing to enhance the features and usability of Webflow. Sorry for my English. No, sorry for my terrible reading of that, but thank you for jumping
perfect.
in. I know the English was good and I'm the one that butchered it.
Thank you, Dimitri. Thank you.
Nice. Arvind, hello. Akash, hello. Brianna saying, I have a project. I need to use APIs this week, so divine timing. Perfect. Hello, Darren from the UK. Lucas Machado, hello. What's up, Juan? Vishal, Dave, curious about the API. Okay. Hello. All right, let's jump into this. Real quick, one thing we wanted to do, we don't do a lot of announcements usually on Thursday, but there's a cool event coming up tomorrow that I wanted to tell you all about. So let's jump into this. We've got Flowchella happening tomorrow. This is a cool event hosted by Melissa Mendez and Keith Armstrong. They have been popping up all over this Webflow community, and just really awesome, the Webflow party stuff, the Webflow show things they're doing. And so they've got 2 days of really fun conversations with top designers in the world of Webflow and just the world of web design. Yes, they're powerful in the world of Webflow, but also these 3 stand out, and these 6 really all stand out on their own. Even without Webflow, they would be super successful in this space. And so come listen to them talk about design and how they approach projects, how they work with Webflow, lots of different things. We will be streaming this as well. So you can go RSVP. All the notes and details for this are in the description of this video. So if you're interested to learn more about that, check out the description. The RSVP link is there. The event will be taking place inside of Gather. We'll be streaming it here on YouTube. Going to be lots of fun, great networking. I know Melissa and Keith have lots of fun stuff planned for that event. So be sure not to miss that. And with that being said, let's get to it. Joe, do we have any disclaimers today?
We do. Attributes API is in early release. This product will evolve over time, and we've just released the most important parts of it. CMS Core, CMS Filter, CMS Load. The API needs to be documented for all the other solutions, and that's going to come probably in a few months. But with Filter and Load and Core, you're really able to do most of what you're asking to do. This custom filtering, custom loading of items onto the page. So it's early, but it really is powerful for a first release. We're very happy with it.
Yeah, for sure. Disclaimer number 2 is that the API and the stuff we're talking about as it relates to this is going to require a little bit more technical knowledge than you may be used to in the world of Webflow or the world of no code. This is not no code. This is where no code starts to meet the code. And that is what an API is, right? And so APIs are how code talks to itself, right? This is how code talks back and forth, right? This is the endpoints, if you will, for functionality. We talked the other day about front end as a service, and SaaS has, different functionality that it provides. Well, all that functionality comes at the end of an endpoint, an API endpoint that then talks to other pieces of software. And this is how you build big modular pieces of software. Some of that is private, right? Some of that happens internally, and some of that is open, available externally to other software to plug in, right? And this is what's powering a lot of evolution in the world of code. This is what really powered that entire episode. We talked about the front end as a service, where companies are kind of taking these services and offering those endpoints in unique ways in other experiences so that you can use what that software does, what that code does. And so we're going to dive in and talk just a little bit about some of that. So as a audience prompt today, we want to know what you might like to see next from attributes or the API. And this may not be something that all of you can answer to, because maybe you don't know what you want to see from an API, but maybe as we go, things will spark your thoughts. And so these conversations are always very fluid and flow based on the conversation and the comments. So we encourage everyone out there to share your thoughts about stuff you'd like to see. If there's something that you don't understand, we can't promise to answer it, but we did tease this Tuesday, and we are going to start doing this pretty regularly, is having Alex on the show for a little bit more technical deep dive on some of these products. So stay tuned. We will announce the first date for that very soon, in the near, probably in the next week or two.
That's really going to increase the technical knowledge of the community. If you're coming to those Alex streams when we start them, they're going to be packed with really advanced technical content. And I'd like to start off the show, this topic, talking about your description of APIs, how they're communication tools, how they can help you communicate with products and communicate with other scripts and anything. That's communication, I think, it's a really nice no-code way to describe an API. And what this API, Attributes API, is doing is communicating with the features and the capabilities that we have inside the Attributes platform. So when you set up filter, when you set up load, when you set up sort, when you set up nest, we have a lot of code that manages that no-code attributes process. And the API is how you can communicate with those processes and change them past the default. It's a layer of customization on top of what's already been built in the no-code form. So API, application programming interface, this is your interface into attributes. I think it's really cool. I love the way you described that, Reimar, so I wanted to continue that definition. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I do see that Jonathan Holding here is asking, what is an AP? Can we answer the silly question, what is an API? So let's do this. I mean, let's just go to the Google machine and see what happens. If we Google API is the acronym for Application Programming Interface, which is a software intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other. So each time you use an app like Facebook, send an instant messenger, check the weather on your phone, you're using an API. So essentially that's, what I described. It's a touch point. It's an endpoint in the software that allows two pieces of software to talk to each other. And it's used in a number of different ways in software development to, again, trigger an action on one end that sends data to an endpoint or holds data at an endpoint. And then another piece of software, another thing then says, hey, let me grab that data, and then it pulls it into that software, and then that software does whatever it's going to do to it, and maybe then serves it up to another endpoint. And that endpoint can be internal, external, there's a lot of things you can do with that without getting much deeper here. So hopefully that answers your question, Jonathan. And there's nothing silly about that. I think a lot of times, we take for granted technical stuff, but we're not necessarily, the most technical folks in the no-code space. So it's okay to kind of jump in and ask some of these things. Rahul is asking a very serious question, Joe. Can
the API make Joe sing? That functionality is not launched yet. We're thinking later this year. So right now, no, but just wait on that.
Okay. All right,
what else do we have?
Looking to see if there's anything in the comments here before we move forward. No, it doesn't look like it. So,
Nice.
Where did I left it zoomed to my show notes. We're in the screen I zoomed into. Let me get it back out of that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about let's recap. What does this thing do? What is the attributes? What we launched? What does that do? What can people do with this? I can bring up the website here again. We can walk through that but let's recap real quick for the folk, what exactly this attributes API is and what it does.
Sure. Perfect. Okay, so when you're on the attributes website, finsweet.com/attributes, you can go to this attributes tab, and this is now separate documentation from our no-code solutions, right? This API is how we communicate with the no-code solutions, where you set up all the attributes on the page. And this API, the heart of it is CMS Core. CMS Core is a way to programmatically manage the items and the lists of a dynamic list. So you're able to manage the CMS list and the item. You can remove certain items from your list. You can add additional items to your list. So in the example of our GitHub, pulling in from GitHub, which is what you see right here, we're removing something from the page and we're replacing it with this. And then we have the table of contents on the left. So we can, we just have a lot of control programmatically of how we manage lists and items. And if you watch the tutorials, it gives a really good visual of this working. Even if you don't know how to code and you're not really interested in learning how to code, just watch that. This is such a nice, simple example showing how Alex has a CMS list, removes the items from the list, pulls in the data from another source, binds the data to a template item in Webflow from the list, and now we have a CMS list populated with other data. And now we can go and filter through that data in video too. So you got to watch these videos. I watch them. I'm not a coder. I'm not going to follow these. But just watching how this works, I think it really opens up your mind of what this API does.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I watched the first one in full again yesterday. Just kind of had it playing in the background. It's good to just kind of absorb some of this stuff, even if you're not going to use it, because you do start hearing and understanding some of these terms that maybe you come across in other parts of what you're exploring and your learning and your no-code stuff and your travels across the tech world. And so whatever exposure you can have to this and understanding how it ties back to Webflow, even if you're not using it directly, just kind of helps orient yourself, when you're dealing with this stuff in any other way. And so, And like we talked about in the show Tuesday, when you do need it, then you can come back and maybe you're a little bit more familiar because you've heard it once, or, you know, you have this direct application now that you want to go and put it together with. So,
and look at this right here. So this is the template of this video, that card. And you can see it's duplicated a whole bunch of times. This is a normal CMS list. And these templates are going to be defined as the templates with code. And then when we pull that external data in from the store API, we're going to take that template and say, this image should be binded to this URL. This heading should be binded to this piece of the JSON. This category binded to this piece of the JSON. And we duplicate those cards in the list, essentially creating a CMS collection list from an external source. Now, it's very important to know that this API is not a tool for bringing in data. There's nothing specific for calling data from an API. This is JavaScript. This is just how JavaScript works. What this API does is helps you manage that data in Webflow. It helps you have a template structure like this and populate the collection list. It helps attributes filter, attributes load, attributes sort, understand that this data exists, and filter through it just like you would a normal Webflow CMS collection list. So that's what you see in this video. And Alex goes through this step by step by step visually. So really recommend watching these.
Can we just talk through that process a little bit, Joe?
Yeah.
Like here, as we see this element, I see there's a collection list. Is this just, you know, you create a collection list with fields that match? Does the collection list have to have all of the fields that the API has? Or do you just need to design elements that represent, you know, the data, and then you can bind those elements to that, to you know, the templates? Because I see it's using a collection list, so you can't just kind of add an element and bind it to anything. It has to be a collection list. Can we talk a little bit about how that's working, or is that too technical for us to dive into?
I think I can explain some of this. We work in the collection list because we're still using attributes as a filter system, right? When you're implementing the filter, you're still adding the attributes to the page. You're not filtering with the code. You're still adding the attributes to the page. The code is just an addition to the attributes, and the attributes have to go on the collection list. They go, the list elements goes on the list. All the individual fields have attributes on them. So that all stays the same. So there's no reason to change the structure. We use the collection list because it's there for us in Webflow. But it doesn't have to be binded to a collection. It doesn't have to be connected to a collection. So a specific collection. The fields don't have to be binded. We're just using it for the structure, for the styles, so that we can build our template item visually in Webflow like we normally would. You would start building just like you're working in Webflow CMS. But instead of binding in Designer, you are binding those fields in the code from an external source.
Nice.
Does that answer the question?
I think so. I think what I was trying to get to was, is the CMS list in Webflow telling the API something specifically, like, hey, this is an array of something, or, you know, like if we go to this attributes API page where these pages are pulling from GitHub, are these these are template pages then? You know, I'd be interested to know, like if we don't have, like if I looked in the Webflow CMS, would I see an API page called an item called CMS core, and then this is just replacing it?
Yep.
Or how is that happening?
This right here is a Webflow CMS page. We are managing the API docs as Webflow CMS template pages. But when you go to this template page, it just says loading GitHub here. And we say, okay, we're on this template page. GitHub, take this key, give me the documentation of this key, and put it here on this page, render it here on this page. There's no collection list here. This isn't a collection list setup.
Got it.
It's a single item setup.
Got it.
But we could have, let's say, a collection list on the bottom, and we can yeah, there's really no limitations. You can cross-use Webflow or be completely separate from Webflow if you want. We don't have to build this on a Webflow CMS template page. We could have just had a static page and put our own key system in. But we know Webflow CMS. We want to use Webflow CMS as much as possible. So it's like a hybrid model. And really, it comes down to JavaScript. Your limitations with Attributes API is your knowledge of JavaScript, which, of course, we all have limitations in, right? Nobody knows everything about JavaScript. So, yeah, the options, I really see them as endless.
Yeah. I want to bring up this comment here from downtown Berlin who says, why do you stress the term no code so much if this API is not even low code? I mean, it's an API with documentation and not any configurator or UI. What's the point? Well, we're in the no code industry, and so this is like language people use, and so that's why we use it. Because it also helps us connect the dots. We are converging from like no code, Webflow is like a no code tool, into the code space. And so this is, this like no code is a moniker, like a marketing term. And so not all of us are in love with the term, but it is a term that's kind of used ubiquitously across the space. And so a lot of times it just comes up as part of the conversation. But I think this does push the limits of taking code into a no code world, right? This allows you to start bringing some of that stuff. And I think no code is really just a blurring of the line. I like the idea of visual software development more than I like no code, but yeah, Corey's saying right here, no code is a gateway drug.
Can we go back to that?
Yeah, gosh, sure.
Yeah. So this is an API for a no-code tool. We're leading with our no-code tool. This is a new feature of a no-code tool, but still our top priority is attributes, which is a no-code tool. So we're just saying, hey, use the no-code tool. Like, this is what we want you to use. We hope this works for every use case you have. But in the event that it doesn't work for your use case, we have this API that you can write code on top of for the no-code solution. Most companies have this, including Webflow. Yeah. Webflow is no code, but they have an API that you can use in the event that the no-code tool does not satisfy your native requirements.
Right.
So yeah, we're not stressing one or the other. We just want to give you all the tools you need to do your job.
Correct. Let's see. So would this be what Integromat or Zapier do under the hood, basically? That's super powerful. No. Not even close.
Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, Integromat or Zapier is like... I guess if we're talking about front end as a service, that's kind of like a back end as a service where those tools let you pull data from somewhere, let's say Webflow, but Webflow serves that to you at an endpoint through an API, and then Zapier and Integromat grabs that, and then Integromat or Make now will run it through some kind of workflow that you can configure and Make, or Zapier has all these like little pre-compiled automations that you can say, hey, when this happens, then do that, then do this. All that's doing is pulling and accessing APIs and different things from other software and running those automations in some kind of sequence and then serving those results to another place that you can then do something with that or trigger something or send an email or add a lead to a something or whatever that action is. This API doesn't let you do any of that. At some point, if you wanted to write a script with this, you could now write a custom hook, I think, with this API to Zapier and maybe have it filter your Webflow site for some reason. If something happens over here, maybe filter your Webflow site, and that would be a Zapier thing that creates a hook that talks to this API that then triggers the filtering on your Webflow site, but it doesn't replace any of that functionality. This isn't doing any of that automated triggering. None of that is happening with this API. This is just allowing you to kind of write code on top of attributes or trigger something in attributes with your own little JavaScript. Did I get that right, Joe?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. You could do that with JavaScript, so that works. Let's bring up a comment from Adrian and then right after from John Matthias.
Sure.
Adrian says, so you can dynamically populate a modal, or any other element. And then John says, so the Attributes API isn't intended to be a tool to bring in data from external sources. Instead, it's a tool to help manage data that is coming from an external source. Is that accurate? There's a lot of questions here about the external sources. And I want to make this very clear. This is not a tool. There's no special helpers for bringing the data in. This is something you can do with JavaScript. The reason why we keep talking about bringing data in from external sources is because this is the top use case for the API. You bring in that data and then you do something with attributes. The key to this API is there needs to be a use case in the no-code attributes. If there is no use case to use attributes as a platform, you have no use for the API. This isn't a calling information API. It's just something that once it comes into Webflow. So with Adrian's comment, so you can dynamically populate a modal or any other element, yes, but we haven't done anything with attributes yet. I mean, you could do that with JavaScript. You don't need attributes API to go and do that. So I need to filter. And I need to do it in this special way that when somebody clicks this filter, they get sent an email in their authenticated account, right? That's what I can do. I can run those filters, and when those filters are running, I can write JavaScript on top of that. Or I need to load more items. You know, maybe I want to have an external data source come in, and I want to do that load more effect, where I click it and load more, click it and load more. We can do that with the attributes API. But the JavaScript to bring that data in isn't attributes API. We just help you better work with that. When you filter, when you load, when you sort, when you nest, when you do anything with attributes.
Right.
Is that clear? And if I said that and there's still questions about this, please ask. I want to make it very clear.
Yeah, I think we should spend a little bit more time kind of running through that,
Okay.
just to make sure we understand it. So you have to bring the data. The data needs to be being served up from somewhere else. The attributes API is not handling the data. It's not manipulating the data. It's not doing anything outside of what you might do, again, with attributes functionality, like a filter, like a sort, like a load more, when those things become available. Obviously, they're not all available yet, right? We just have the filter and the sort right now along with the core. But as those things come through, you know, you're still going to need something else. And that's, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And Joe, maybe this is a place to do that, because you may still need something like a WISD, right? To authenticate the data. You know, WISD is a tool for working with external data inside of Webflow more so than this attributes API. This attributes API, again, is just something about, you know, do you need something to happen on that filter action? Are you pulling this external data in from somewhere else, and you want to append, you know, the collection to do a pagination or to do some kind of, you know, continuous loadings, whatever, as they scroll. But if you wanted like to restrict that data to somebody who was logged in, that's not here. You know, you would need something else on top of that. If you wanted to have some kind of authentication or some kind of payment mechanism or some kind of logic connected to the action, so that if that data needs to be acted upon, or if you want people to add that data or do something with that data, all of those things need to happen somewhere else. You know, none of those things are things you can do with this API. So I guess for whatever that is, I don't know if maybe I muddied the water even more there, but
it's a good use case. It's an interesting one with WISD, because with WISD, what it allows you to do is call an API and then render that data on your Webflow site. So you can do this in a no-code way, but you still need to filter that data once it gets to your Webflow site, right? Imagine a whole list of items and they're all on the Webflow site. But now, how do I filter those items? Using the attributes API, you can say, hey, this data is coming in from WISD. Let's recognize it in the collection list. Let's understand what this data is, and now let's go filter it. So you'd be able to bring that data in, another source, no code, and now use the attributes API to make sure that the filter works on top of it.
Correct. And Juan, you nailing it right here. For example, if I bring data from Xano, I could use this as sort, filter, or load the data.
Sure.
Correct.
Exactly.
But Xano's still going to be doing everything that relates to that data. Xano's serving up the API to pull, like, so they're serving up an endpoint that sends the data. And so all, the attributes API is doing is, again, letting you organize that using the attributes functionality inside of Webflow. And then obviously mapping it to the page, like Alex showed in his demo. Right. So if you watch those demo part 1 and part 2, and you want to see how to take that data and replace your Webflow collection list with that data, cool. Then you bring the attributes in, you can sort that data. But you still need, like Juan is saying here, you need that data somewhere, and you need a feed of that data coming from a place.
Yes. And also, it's important to know that you don't have to work with external data. We keep giving this external data example because naturally, when we built this for ourselves, the first 5 or 6 examples we built were all from external sources because that's our direct need. But you can also do this right from Webflow CMS. You can set up a normal attribute system, totally working, not external data. And let's say if somebody filters a car for over $100,000 and filters BMW, Mercedes, or Audi, this person gets a cookie. And when they submit a web form, we know that they're looking for a premium car, right? We can do anything. We can write JavaScript on top of that filter sequence and identify that user better, right? It's JavaScript. So it lets us really manage and understand the whole filtering process.
Yeah.
There's a question from Charlie about Noble. Sorry if this was covered. It wasn't. Will the API essentially replace your Noble feature for Airtable? This is totally different from Noble. Noble sends data from Webflow to Airtable or Airtable to Webflow. It's a tool to help you sync that data back and forth. The attributes API is for filtering that data, whether it's living in Webflow or living in Airtable. When we bring data in from Airtable through an API, that's not going to be very SEO friendly. We're going to be pulling it in from that API and rendering it on the page. So if you have a data set that doesn't require any SEO, this may be a good option for you, right? Pull the data in, render it, filter through it with attributes API. Noble is valuable because it sends it to Webflow CMS. That's now server-side rendered in Webflow. And now that is SEO friendly. And you don't need you may not even need the attributes API if you're using Noble. That would almost be a reason to say, I don't need the attributes API. So Charlie, nope, these are two different things, not sunsetting Noble. We're actually working on an update. We had a little bit of trouble finding the resources for our next update. They started 2 weeks ago, and we have a really nice update plan for Noble. So not sunsetting, we're sunrising it. We are bringing it back to life.
Yeah, and due to some recent changes to how Webflow handles their API bringing data in, Noble actually just got a little boost. Videos are now all supported in Noble as well. So if you've been using Noble, you'll see that now you can send videos, and those will all render in supported formats in Webflow. So that's cool to see too. Caleb is asking, so if you're just using Webflow CMS for data, is there any reason to use the attributes API instead of the no-code version?
There could be. I gave the example before about tagging somebody with a cookie if they are searching for premium cars. Maybe there is a use case for tagging users is the first thing that comes to my mind. Somebody does enough filters, maybe they run enough filters, and now they get this tag like, ooh, this is a hot lead. Let's show them a pop-up in the bottom right of the screen because this person is obviously interested. They spent 10 minutes filtering through things. So you can change the experience and customize the experience for a user inside the project, regardless of where the data is coming from.
Nice. Okay. All right. So let's see. I'm trying to think. As usual, we're far away from our script. So let's go back and think about what possibilities this opens up for, in Webflow. Outside of that, have we covered everything? The ability to add custom functionality. Can we talk a little bit about that? Obviously, what we just talked about is one thing, so the example of marking or tagging somebody inside of a system for taking some kind of action. But what else might somebody want to build on top of this? Like, I know we talked about maybe that custom search functionality that somebody suggested in the comments Tuesday, but what else would somebody maybe want to build custom JavaScript for on top of the attributes? Do you have any idea on use cases for that?
Well, I probably should have created a little list of these things. We use the external data example so much because that's what we're actively doing with it. Let me think of some. I got one. Sometimes we have clients with very specific requests. Way too specific. On the first click of load more, I want 5 items to load. Then I want 10 items to load. Then I want 50 items to load. I believe you can do this with the API. You can customize how that data is loaded, in what segments or iterations, and really be able to manage every single piece of that load more instance.
Right.
So that happens sometimes. Clients ask for something and we're like, hey, the default is you have to pick a number, and then that's just what the number is. But with this, that limitation, you don't have to follow the default, right? Anytime you want to break that default that we have set for you, and there's no option to change the default, with the API, you can probably change that default.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see Alex typing something in here saying,
here.
Yeah, save us, Alex. No, keep in mind that Attributes API is meant for interacting with the internal logic of attributes, not only to fetch external data, but also for interacting with DOM elements when attributes renders them, loading third-party libraries on top of attributes, programmatically setting custom values to filters, range sliders, etc. So I think that's kind of going along the lines of, Joe, what you were talking about there is making some nuanced changes to the native behavior of attributes. Or I like the custom values to range sliders, or maybe somebody pre-filled out a form on one page, and based on that form, I want them to land on a page on my website that has the filter just right there for them, and that can all happen through something like this. So yeah, I think there's probably a ton of listening for events. Go ahead.
Can we go back? I love the loading third-party libraries.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we get the request of, hey, I'm working with this slider library. I want the custom swiper JS or whatever. Or we're using this special tooltip thing, and the tooltips are not filterable. Well, now we can bring in those other libraries safely and have the filtering recognize them.
And that's important because maybe, and I don't know, would that work with like Webflow slider or CMS tabs or some of those that are bringing the Webflow dynamic content into like a CMS element, and then you could write JavaScript on top of that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. We don't have the API support for
sliders and that stuff just
for
yet.
Slider
Correct,
or tab,
correct.
but yes, that is exactly correct. You would be able to programmatically manage the CMS slider solution, the CMS tab solution, and then hopefully all of those together.
Yeah. And Alex finishes his thought there, listening for events like render items, switch page, etc., to trigger custom actions when desired, and much more. So I think it comes down to, again, personalizing that experience, right? Why would somebody want to filter a big collection? Well, to make it easier for the user to get through that content, right? And so a lot of this stuff is about providing a better user experience, allowing the user to manipulate data on the page. This is what a lot of attributes does, right? The click to copy, the little things that again, they're just quality of life improvements inside of Webflow. And so adding something on that, maybe that's the fun of this. And I think that's the fun of all of APIs, right? A lot of times as a software company, you're just like, hey, here's a thing that we do with our data on our side, but here's an API which is just going to serve that data up in a way that we don't know what you're going to do with it. That's why it's out here. It's out here for you to grab it and do whatever you're going to do with it, and then come back and do something else with that. And that's the fun, I think, of software. And that's where you can build and fun. And that's where I think the visual software developers who really cut their teeth in this space over the next 10 years, a couple years really, are going to be the ones who find ways to take those random APIs, those endpoints, those front ends as a service, and compile that all into unique inventions. This is going to be a whole new form of invention, I think, moving forward, is taking data from one place, taking data from another place, you creating some way that kind of does something with that data, and then presenting that data in a new form to a whole new audience. I really am bullish on that type of experience for businesses moving forward.
Alex has a great example. When using a custom slider library like Slick.js plus CMS load, you can dynamically add new slides to Slick.js when CMS loads them. Perfect. So you can, you know, the click to load more, and we're going to load more items underneath the existing items. You can add those items to a slider experience. So this is still living in Webflow CMS. This is not working with external data. But now you get to completely customize exactly what you want for that filtering, loading experience.
Yeah. I'm going to, because Alex follows up another one here, but Arvind asks, are you thinking to do something in analytics? I don't know that we are, but you could be. And Alex is saying you could even push analytics events to the data layer when the user applies a filter. So again, you could use that to do things like setting parameters in a G tag, or if you're using some kind of lead scoring, or if you're trying to pass some information for, again, like some custom interaction or some kind of modal or some other event trigger. You know, maybe you want on form redirect, if they've done X, to take them to one place versus take them somewhere else. Right? Maybe there's some simple, like, really you could just get as crazy as you wanted here, I think. But what you can't do, and going to Ferdy's point here, is no, this is not a solution for the 10,000 item limit. This has nothing to do with that. This goes back to what we were talking about with Noble versus this. It's two completely different worlds. You know, the 10,000 item CMS limit is a hard Webflow limit for their internal CMS. This has nothing to do with that. This is literally just allowing you to have ability to write some extra functionality on top of attributes. And again, call that functionality with external data when you're displaying it on your Webflow site. But again, nothing to do with the CMS.
Adrian, I was thinking something like a geo directory of locations, or maybe a university research dashboard. Yeah, right. You know, you get these live maps, you get these geolocated maps, and you're pulling in that data location from the user's browser. How do you manage, okay, now we have the user's browser, we have a whole bunch of potential closest locations. So now you can write some JavaScript to say, hey, we know the user's location here. We have the user's location in a Webflow CMS item or an external item. And now let's go and check these two data locations and filter the list based on the closest location. So yeah, Adrian, absolutely, this is a great use case.
Nice. Okay. So that gives us the possibilities, right? I think that's kind of what's possible, and what does this open up in Webflow? Do we want to talk a little bit about long-term, or where we're maybe headed with this, or what we kind of see as next steps for us and where we're headed with all of this, Joe?
Well, we don't know too much more than we're going to implement all of the other solutions in the API. That's really the next update with the API, getting all those solutions over. I don't have much more to say after that. I think we really need to see how people use it, and then really react based on that. We don't know what's going to come from this. We have some ideas. We're talking about some use cases, but we really need to see how this community reacts. Yeah.
And I guess I would be interested to know what's going through your heads out there as you're listening. Is there anything immediately that you're like, oh, I'd like to do this? Is this something you're just kind of watching? I see the chat's a little slow today. So is this something most people are just kind of watching to learn a little bit more, because now we're in the technical weeds of stuff, and because most of us lose our ability to swim in water where code's involved? I know for myself, as soon as I get into this, I feel like I'm, kind of just well into water way over my head. So if that's the case, let us know how we can maybe make this more approachable. If that's not the case, let us know, what's got you excited, or what are you thinking about as you see some of this rolling out here.
And don't forget that, let's touch this first. The more use cases people bring up, the better we'll define the APIs so they can potentially cover them. That's exactly correct. If you tell us what you want and we hear enough people say the same thing, we're going to probably do it. So tell us, hey, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do this. And when we hear the same use case, we're going to focus on that use case. Currently, the API is based on our own internal use cases at Finsweet, but this can't cover everything. So if people have ideas, say them so we can consider them for the API. Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, don't look down on this if you are a non-technical person. Remember that this is an add-on to attributes. So still, the product is attributes. We are always going to be no code first with attributes, where when we release an attribute, it's going to have the no code solution. After that no code solution is defined, then we go and release the attributes API. So this is not a shift in the platform. This is not, hey, we were focusing on no code, now we're going the code route. We are no code, and now we have this really cool add-on for those people that do need to write code.
Yeah, and a lot of times, just going back to where Finsweet is headed next, and why we solve this, and really what Alex is saying, that it's based on our use cases, is that we're on the front edge. Like, the companies typically that we're working with are a lot of times pushing the limits of what's needed in Webflow because their business requires it, because maybe they're coming from some custom solution and they're looking to get their marketing team the ability to use Webflow and to start taking advantage of some of the benefits of this, but they still have some of these higher level technical requirements that come along with some of the more established or flexible options. And so as we encounter these problems, the whole suite of Finsweet products has really evolved from trying to solve those problems for clients and then trying to translate those into tools, those solutions into tools that other people can do to replicate the same thing. Selfishly, to give them to other people on the team so that if they come into the hurdle, they don't have to spend the same time doing that work. And then also to just open it up to help the industry grow, which is, just a vision of Joe's from the beginning with Finsweet, and something that we've continued on to this day, is really just trying to empower the folks that use these tools to be able to do their job better, and not always necessarily charging to nickel and dime. And so again, that goes back to this functionality, why we're solving these problems. Maybe you don't understand exactly why it works, but some of this come from a real world use case that I think will start to present themselves more and more and more in Webflow as more companies come, as these implementations of Webflow become more technical, and as people need this kind of stuff. And so just because you don't understand it yet, just to Joe's point, or just because you don't see an immediate use case for it, don't dismiss it. Don't think it's not useful for you. It could be right around the corner from a need from yours, that maybe your next client's going to come to you, and you'll soon be coming back to this thank goodness Finsweet was here for me.
We have a great comment from Elay. It's good for a careers page. You can pull the data from external API, and then you don't need to manage the CMS, but still use the power of filter attributes and custom design. This is a great example, and we use this. We're going to be using this a lot on our client sites. Let's take an integration like Greenhouse. This is a very popular integration for larger companies. Greenhouse has one option where they're going to serve you a list of all the jobs in JSON. And this is a public job board. Anybody can access this JSON, which means we can just write some code, grab that data, bring it into the site. We already do this a lot for our clients. But if a client were to say, hey, I want to filter these jobs now in addition, this would now be a custom thing. It would require additional JavaScript, and we definitely would not be able to have a full feature set like we have in attributes. So now we are going to pull this data in, and now we're going to be able to filter the data with attributes using the attributes API. So we have a filterable greenhouse job board on our careers page. I click that job, I go off to the greenhouse site, and now everything is great.
Yeah.
Totally integrated. So great use case here.
Which is also one even step further from what most people I see doing with like a greenhouse, which is just, they don't even grab the JSON and display it. They're just going to grab the embed. You know, I'm just going to go to the greenhouse site. I'm going to go to the dashboard and I'm going to grab whatever my embed is. And I'm going to go create an iframe on my website. And I'm going to stick this awkward, like, you know, inset scroll inside a scroll thing on my page. That's going to be real shitty for my users to experience. Or you can grab the API like Joe just said, bring it right into a CMS list like Eli's saying here, and then you style it and now it looks beautiful. You're using attributes filtering. It matches the exact aesthetic of your website and your client's like, oh, so happy. And you can charge lots and lots of money for that. You know, way more, like thousands of dollars versus just, oh yeah, we can embed that on your careers page. No big deal. Or, you know, you can add a couple $1,000s to your project and really just take this over the top. So taking it back to, I know this ain't a growth episode, but we're always trying to tie this back to sales.
Yeah, you can make money from the attributes API. If you learn how this works, you learn the basics of the code, you can charge more for things. Yeah. Right? When we offer a careers job integration with Greenhouse, we have 5 options, 5 clear options. So I think now we're going to beef up option 5 and option 4, and we're going to be selling more of those higher tier ones, and we're going to take less time to build them. So yeah, this is we can't get away from the growth. It's going to come on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, Naya saying, I'm curious for how this can work for job boards. Rewind that just a couple minutes there. We were talking about how you may be able to sort the data coming from a green, like a jobs API. You just need an API. Watch those videos that are in the description, part 1 and part 2, for how to pull that data into Webflow. And then you can just use Webflow and attributes to sort that. Again, this is not working with the Webflow CMS. So if you're looking to do, it does work with the Webflow CMS as long as you're using attributes. But what we're talking about, pulling this external data, is not bringing that into Webflow CMS. So just note that there's a clear differentiation if you're pulling external data from an API versus what's inside of Webflow as a CMS. Here's one, Joe. Joe, can we use FS search filter with geolocation in the future, like restaurants near me? Yeah, I think that's kind of like that use case we were talking about, right?
You can do this, but this will never be native. This is a great example of something that I can't see this being native inside attributes. It has to use other services. There's a lot of things going on there. Mm-hmm. But now you have the ability to build this. And the filtering and the sorting and the searching is going to be automated through attributes. Yep. So we won't build it, but you now can build it.
Yep. Downtown Berlin, I would have a bunch of use cases or gaps to close. Where do you want them? Well, you can send them in smoke signals. I think the fax number is in the YouTube description. You could fax them to our home office. I'm kidding. You can leave them as comments here, or send us a message in our Slack, or become a pro and join one of our channels.
Yeah.
John Matthias, this has definitely been helpful and informative. I'm banking this for now until I have a specific use case. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of folks will be too. And this is, again, very early, going back to the disclaimer, you know, that this is like super early in the phase of this, and it will evolve. Again, we're just kind of fully defining these APIs and how they work and what we're going to do with all of them. And so, I think we're doing some of the same thing on our ends too. Just really, again, taking on a use case basis. We find a problem, we figure out how to solve it, we turn that into a solution, and then we look for the next problem. That's like the never-ending cycle at Finsweet.
Penny, I'm taking it all in and feeling grateful for tools like these that make it possible to stretch the capabilities of my business. Yes. Thank you, Penny. That is exactly what we're going for. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Pierre, yeah, shout out Pierre. Hello everyone, too busy to work today. Just dropping in for give a quick like and show some love. Can't wait to watch a replay. Looks like you're stepping the bar once again. Yeah, shout out Pierre. Nice. Pierre's one of those super technical users that looks to get into weeds with some of the code stuff and some of the Integromat, real complex automation workflows and stuff. So I could see Pierre being one of the types to nerd out on this.
Mm-hmm. Susan, I was thinking this could help create a niche business, and people from this niche don't need to go into Webflow, but just add data to a spreadsheet. Yeah, sure. So using a spreadsheet as the CMS, sure. If that data does not need to be SEO friendly and you're just displaying it on the front end, sure, absolutely.
I want to take this one step further, Joe, and throw the little Atmos idea out that we teased the other day, because I think people are yeah, Susan, you're so on to this. I think you don't know how close you are to something really important to the future of Webflow. And we talked about this on that front end as a service thing, because there is still a really high technical curve, even to the simplest web builder, for the average person. Right? We make our living building websites. And so for us to geek out on all this tech, and Webflow is a super powerful tool, great, that's amazing. But it may as well still be Greek to my mom, no matter how easy you make this stuff. But my mom knows how to use Facebook, and my mom knows how to use, some social media, and she knows how to use email and some of these other things. She knows how to use a spreadsheet. So to what you're saying here, we still need to find ways to give people tools to leverage some of these things that we're building in very unique and interesting ways. I may or may not be hinting. If you want to go watch the show and tell, we did a little sneak peek of something, but I do think giving people the ability to build Webflow websites without any of this technical complexity is still a huge layer that's going to open this up to lots of folks. So I agree. I think lots of people will be looking for ways to do this, to give the audience themselves ways to contribute to Webflow sites with zero technical hurdle. And I think that's a big market yet to be tapped.
Totally agree. Yeah, that's I'm really excited for the use cases, like what you just said, that we're going to see products that try to fix this problem. We're going to see workflows that try to fix this problem. We'll see updates from Webflow as a platform that tried to fix this problem. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is this will continue to grow and to change as this industry continues.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I would even expect one more layer of abstraction to come from Webflow, one major layer of abstraction to come from Webflow in this regard. And I think they're seeking that out with symbols and their components and things like that, where again, take the component marketplace one step further and make it into a thing that starts to look more like WordPress themes, or Squarespace themes, right? So that more people can come into Webflow with editor style tools or less full design functionality tools and work on selecting, almost like a Reloom does, but more native to Webflow, where you're just kind of, and I can build a page. So maybe I'm a marketer, and in my Webflow library as a company, I have a big style guide with, 50 different templates that I can just drag and drop from. And now I can build in Webflow without, again, having to build those components structurally myself. I can just grab this piece off the top. I grab my little landing page section. I grab my form element. And next thing you know, I've got this page built. And I think there will be a whole layer of Webflow industry commerce at that level. I think people will have big businesses. If you look at the WordPress theme market, if you look at the Squarespace theme market, they're massive. I bet the theme market in WordPress is exponentially bigger than Webflow. As a business, I don't know. I don't know. There's lots and lots, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of themes and theme builders and businesses that sell little widgets on top of that. So I have to imagine in general, it's just something that the Webflow world is going to evolve into. And that's an interesting niche, I think. That's, again, one more layer of technical complexity abstracted away inside of this platform. Deep
for a Thursday.
Yeah.
Nice. Could we build dashboards using this? Grab data from Google Analytics. Absolutely. If you can do it with JavaScript, it can be integrated into Attributes API. And then, yes, you can take that Google Analytics information and have something happen. Have different things happen when the filters run. Have different parameters that are being filtered by. Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, remember, you're not manipulating the data. You're not doing a whole lot with the data other than displaying it, and then whatever the attributes can do. If you're trying to do something else with that data, if you're trying to like have logic or something based on data, then you would need some other system to do that. That's where you need an Integromat. That's where you need a make, or that's where you need a Zapier or a Wiz or something like that.
Or JavaScript.
Or JavaScript, correct. Or JavaScript, right.
Question from Harsh. Harsh Verma, can I integrate Payment Gateway with Attributes API? Well, no, I don't see a use case for this. What is the Payment Gateway? Harsh, you have to think, what can I use attributes for this Payment Gateway? So you need to first define the question, how am I using attributes as a platform in conjunction with this Payment Gateway? And when you have an answer to that, then you can start thinking about the API. But my initial thought to this is no, there's no clear use case for me.
The only thing I could see in that context is you could filter out payment gateways. So let's say you had something with options on a screen and you were filtering those options, and then you wanted only those payment options that were sortable to the options that were on screen or something like that. Maybe, but I don't think, again, you're not really integrating the payment gateway with API. You're just kind of conditionally showing something, but I don't even know that that's a real, I'm kind of like pulling straws here, so I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe you could do that, but I think there's an easier way to do that.
I don't know. Just making shit up. Don't really listen to that last part, Let's see. Zach's saying 1-to-1 watchers to likes ratio. Yeah, I know. Now we got to start. We don't take the likes away, but go find us some new users, some new viewers to raise the view count. Let's see. Nicola Toledo's asking, do you think it will be possible to integrate the API with Webflow logic? That's so hard to say. I mean,
yeah, no idea.
We just don't know anything about Webflow logic.
No.
Okay. Yeah, Penny's jumping on the Susan McPhee. Anything that can help a client feel more comfortable working with the tools they already know is easier. Yeah.
Right. That's a great point, Penny. Sometimes we get technical clients that are sometimes more technical than the people working on the project. Let's say we're working with a development team so that the development team can hand off the marketing site and never touch it again. This is common. When we go to that development team, if they see attributes, they may be impressed. When they see the API on top of it, they're like, whoa, okay, this like has a development platform on top of it. If we wanted to scale this or grow it or change it in the future, we could just write some code on top of it. So I would think that this gives development teams a little bit more confidence in moving forward with the attribute solution.
Yeah. Marcia is asking, where was this 2 months ago? I don't know. Where were you 2 months ago? It's here now, though.
It didn't exist 2 months ago.
It's here now. Okay. All right. I think that's about what we got for today. It's a good break point here. Thank you all for hanging. Joe, any little final thoughts before we jump out of here?
That's it. Stay on top of this conversation. If you're interested about this, come to the trainings that we'll give on it. Watch the videos. Just get into it. It may take weeks or months to get a real grasp on how this works. But I promise you, if you do get a grasp on it, if you understand it, you now have extra superpowers. So just, push through it.
Yeah, and don't get frustrated if you don't have an immediate use case for this. Don't get frustrated if you think this is out of your realm here, or if it's over your head, or whatever thought you may be having. Don't just let that go. We're gonna keep trucking along. There's lots of people working. I'm just a face for a lot of the stuff that's happening. Joe's overseeing a lot of stuff that's happening, but there's lots of people on the other end of this that are pushing this stuff forward. And so it can seem overwhelming. to just one person trying to take this all in. But again, just take little pieces of it as you go. Just take the stuff that you need to learn as you go. Don't get discouraged because it seems like you're drinking from the fire hose here. This is literally all the world of tech. And so just take the pieces that you need, the pieces that matter for you. If you're hanging out just to hang out, that's cool too. I think that's the fun of it is just learning, right? The perpetual learning in this space. So
agreed.
Let's see. Yeah, Harsh is saying I have attributes in my projects. You can share the link. Sure. Yeah, we're not going to review it live here on the stream, though. We're about to peel out. Vay is asking, when will we do another critique stream? I don't know. That's a good question. We should do that, especially now that we got. I know back when we were doing the critiques, 4 guests plus screen sharing was a little suspect. So now we'd have a lot better user experience for that. So. Definitely under consideration. So, okay. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all. This has been a fun episode. We will be back next week. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday. And then tomorrow, once again, we'll be here live with Flowchella 2K22. Go RSVP for that. Let me just bring this back up here, actually. Let's bring this URL back up. We'll go full screen on this on the way out. Jump into this event, eureka.com/the-webflow fest. The link is in the description. So the link is in the description of this YouTube video, but we will be live streaming this tomorrow. They will be in Gather. You should definitely jump in, join the party. That's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, we'll see you all tomorrow. If we don't see you tomorrow, we'll catch you Tuesday. And if we don't catch you Tuesday, we'll catch you Thursday. And damn it, if you're not here by Thursday, then I don't want anything to do with you, okay? All right. Take care. Bye, everyone. Okay.